Hi, I'm Amber Young,
I'm Barbara Phillips.
and this is
Let's talk
Talk
EVM,
EM.
our favorite topic.
Yes, welcome everyone. Welcome to our podcast. I'd like to start with our disclaimer, and the disclaimer is said for Barbara and myself. And the disclaimer is that all of the views that are expressed on this podcast are our own, and they are not the views of the United States government. So, with
Thank you.
that, you're welcome. With that, I'm going to jump in and kick us off with Barbara's soapbox moment.
I just want to note that what's new. How does that phrase go? What's old is new again, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes the most elementary concepts in earned value still people get hung up on. Like, you can't change your performance measurement after the work begins. Yeah, I know. It's so elementary, and yet people want to do it. Well, we're still charging to that. Well, we've exhausted all of the milestones or, percent complete objective evidence we had for completing the work. And yet we're still, actuals are dripping in. Maybe it's material or something. And, we just want to reverse that, and we'll keep it at 99%. So that we can continue to collect those actuals, which are sort of nickel and dime at that point. And it's just, I mean, gosh, Roxy is mentioned in every episode. But that idea of, you just don't want to be wrong. Take your licking. It didn't turn out the way you estimated. And as Tom Poland actually said when we were at that panel a couple weeks ago now, it's by design. You create a plan, you put a line in the sand. If you knew you were going to perform exactly the way you planned, you wouldn't be bothering to plan. Right? I mean, it's an opportunity. It's a risk-based activity. It's a unique endeavor, PMBOK definition of a project. So, you don't expect to, nobody should ever be expecting to perform directly on plan. You should just be learning from, whether you're above or below plan and taking corrective action. That's the point of the system. But people don't want to be wrong, and they start playing games with it, and it defeats the system. So, peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. I want to add more, but I'm not, because I want to give reverence to your moment. So thank you, Barbara.
Yes. I think there's like 5 or 6 Decom tests about it, so that should segue nicely with our guest.
Yes. It will. It will segue into our guest and our topic.
Our celebrity guest.
Our celebrity guest. Yes, I'm very excited to introduce to everyone. I have many great things to say, and we will say them, I think, throughout the conversation, because I'm very excited to talk with Joe Venditti. He is a terrific lead in the area of self-governance. That's our topic. We're going to be looking at forward-leaning self-governance. So with that, Joe, would you please introduce yourself, and welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Amber and Barbara. This is really an honor. My name is Joe Venditti. My history of self-governance is it's basically analogous to my career. When I was commissioned in the Air Force in 1985, my first duty station was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I showed up on the comptroller staff and sent to this little organization called ACCM, and we did CS squared, basically CSC review. So I'm dating myself to the mid 80s, and that is where I got my introduction, and I really liked that assignment a lot. And we got to do that for 2 years, and then the beautiful thing about Wright-Patterson, it broadens you into an entire program controls learning experience and work experience. But I never lost my desire to go back to CS squared. And my next assignment was as a surveillance monitor at the Boeing plant in Seattle. And about a 3.5, almost 4-year tour, and on several different.
And you were still in the Air Force.
I still was, yes.
Okay, yeah, nice.
And yeah, so I wore the blue suit and we got to go around to the projects and we did, just our basic internal surveillance on the EIA 748 and the Boeing system description as applied to each of the projects.
Nice.
So I learned a lot. In fact, I think I learned a lot more not what to do. as a
They're not here to defend themselves, Joe.
no, but as a surveillance monitor and a contractor. And that's about the point I realized that while doing surveillance is pretty cool and neat and a good experience, I wanted to be where I called it where the action was, and I wanted to switch to a contractor side. So, fast forward through the drawdown after Desert Storm, and I became a civilian, and I found work in project controls, and ultimately, a good stint at the old Fernald project in DOE. Amber, I don't know if you remember, if you heard of that one. That was a good success story, and it was really a good program to transition as a young specialist, and now you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember the days of having two PCs on two desks and working in P3, right, and frame. So, and doing that and coming up with, even well before pivot tables, coming up with some innovative ways to portray like baseline changes, things. But nonetheless, bringing that surveillance and implementing really good project controls without really saying the CS squared world in that DOE environment. I went to an Army contract and in 2000 and really got pummeled. On that one. And that was a good one because we were subject to back to the DOD, and they brought the review and they wanted to certify us. And it was a little Army project in Indiana, in Chem Demo. And that was my first taste of, before they even coined that term, of weaponizing EDMS. So it was a good lesson learned. I mean, we went from a project that didn't produce its first CPR for the first 15 to 18 months to getting certified.
Wow.
And, I won't say we were a gold standard, but we were very reliable. But all along the way, as we were having surveillances and establishing a relationship with the people on site that were the surveillance monitors and, the tech and the management and tech support for the resident Army, also the headquarters people that would come and surveil us, and establishing a good relationship with that and gaining that experience from some of these old timers that have been around since, the CS squared days. So he built that rapport and learned what they're looking for. So fast forward, now I come to back to ports. And in fact, I even did a little stint at ports right after I became a civilian. So kind of back to where I started. And I've been on this project unbelievably for going on 16 years.
Nice.
I showed up 1 month after contract award, and we had a lot of old Fernald hands that migrated over. So it was returning to good company.
Is it okay for me to say that he's aging well, Amber, or no?
Yeah.
Yes, I think as long as it makes him smile, because it's true. But yes.
Yeah, I try not to stress about it. So, coming here to ports, and the previous contractor, I mean, they had a certified system per se, but I think the level of rigor that we came to realize what was expected from, as well as PM, was a whole new ball game. I thought the Army was tough. It was good proving ground because I had a pretty thick skin and brought what I thought was a lot to the table. And we built this system from scratch. I mean, we took what the previous contractor had and looked at it and goes, this really doesn't meet what we need. And we couldn't take their box, make it our box. We had to start over. We had different tool sets. But nonetheless, we built everything from scratch. So a lot of good experience to do that, to build a system description and systems and processes that work. So everything you see has evolved over these 15 years. And then when it came to, having the first self-certification and our own corporate people and people, from, PM, the predecessor to PM30 came and really raked us over the coals. Floor Corporate wanted us to be the first certified project on in EM. So on the remediation side of things. So especially in that business line, because if we can achieve some certification, that goes well for future bids, right? So we built the system. So now, as we built it, we self-surveilled, did very well, got a good compliment from one of your counterparts. I won't mention Lenny's name, and and then it was just years of continuing to build until we got to the point where we had the first certification and the introduction to the whole IP2 meter and self-governance. So as I progressed, it's got progressively more sophisticated in self-governance, as opposed to just running through 32 criteria and collecting artifacts and checking CPRs to what, as I'm learning more about IP2 meter and what I'm seeing from the review we just had, I'm very impressed that the work you guys done to try and quantify that question of, does the contractor use EVMS to manage the project? And, we think we're better than we are, but we've got some work to do, but everything's fixable. So when we were certified in we started with really the roadside assist visits in 2017. So this is going on a 9-year effort. You think about it.
Wow.
I can do my math right? So 2017, with the team back then from PM30 and roadside assist visits with Cap 1, OSWDF Cap 1, and that team there. And, to say that culture, and if you don't mind me framing it in IP2 meter speak, the environment.
Oh, we don't mind.
And the culture was, I used to joke we were the Rodney Dangerfield of career fields. We got no respect.
Oh.
We were a necessary evil, you name it.
Wow.
And then, and we took a beating. I mean, someone coined the phrase, we had a 20-car pileup.
Oh.
So, how many process areas is that, right? That's 4 apiece back in the day when wasn't it just 5? So, it was brutal. I got to miss the show for personal reasons, but I came back to a small disaster. And, it was actually a pretty big disaster. They wanted some heads to roll, but cooler heads prevailed, and it gave us a chance to work off that. Your predecessors are very accommodating. So fast forward, we get through all that camp, all the old root cause analysis. I mean, we had the deep dive with people that had black belts in new crit safety, helping us to do a proper root cause analysis and get to it. And then we got through that. We got certified, by the end of, the beginning of 20. And that's kind of where I started seeing the culture change, that missing 10, 12 weeks right in the heart of the review and the bloodbath. And, I'll just be honest, it was a bloodbath.
Wow.
And when you have 20 cars and 30 DRs, that's a lot of work to try to fix, as well as implement CIOs. And I just told the team, I said, there's nothing we're not going to address.
Wow.
And come back and working those off, and you get that email, and then you work off the camps and do the demonstrations, and you get that final letter. I mean, it kind of just gives me goosebumps again to live.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's hard earned.
It's not so much joy as it is relief. It's like,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing this, change in cultures, like success breeds success.
Ooh.
Hey, maybe we can do this.
Yes.
And there, there's a lot of behind the scenes people and the way they behave, conducting themselves, changes in personnel. And as we progress from like 2020 to 2026, there was I had another medical issue in the middle of it, and I missed 6 months of work. And then to come back a noticeable change, there was a leadership change. And I'm kind of maybe getting ahead of myself, Barbara, but anyway, and Amber, that as I tell the story of self-governance myself, to see what I've experienced as this changing culture, that the success continued to breed more success and better leadership that used it elsewhere, brought that same mentality that, hey, look, that saying, it's your certification is very difficult to earn. It's very easy to lose. I think a lot of people in leadership took that to heart. So, plus, we continued. One of the caveats was self-governance, and we needed to load that first CSV file. So we did that. We did the first JSON file, and I can't take any credit for that other than being blessed with good people and laying out those requirements, like, how do we get this done? What do we need? And I'm the kind of guy, that manager that would say, tell me what you need, and we need software developers. And I tell you what, that is key. I learned that when I was at Newport, Indiana on the Army contract. They had a kid that could program in that database environment. I think it was Access. P6 schedulers, you can train enough, feed a monkey enough bananas. Because I'll pick on schedulers, You feed them enough bananas, they can do that. Give me someone who can program. Yeah. Maybe in retirement, I'll teach myself SQL or something, or have someone teach me.
There you go. Fun project for when you retire. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned that, in just to say that we're great at data. We suck at information. We had to be able to discern all the attributes and tests and what PARs offered back to us and the audit values. And how do I demonstrate a self-governance program? I'm like, well, really, the old way doesn't really work anymore. I have to address PARs. So we built, because we were not only producing the CSV files, we went right back to source. And I told my requirement is, this is great, I got an X, Y value. Interesting, but what happened? And, you can't pour through 2 or 3 capital projects and other work as well.
Yeah, I remember that now, Joe, from when we chatted before we were ready to get on this recording about that. I think one really big thing that we didn't hear you say just now is that, or maybe you did, but people probably can't believe their ears, which is that you actually created, with your programmers and so forth, your own automated metric. And so what now you're critiquing is that, okay, X over Y gives me outside the threshold, fine, or tolerance, whatever you call it. But you didn't know what you didn't know what were the activities in the schedule that missed it, or what were the control accounts, or what were the work packages. And so I think that's what you're talking now, is that you guys really got to work and produced. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's true, Barbara. We had to be smart about self-governance. And, it's like, with the requirement to use PAR's audit value and complete those responses as part of certification, it's like, it was just natural. It's like, how can I pour over a schedule and find that one, or validate those 2 activities? Well, yeah, you know what? Those are the milestones at the end. They're not supposed to have successors. And so, something simple. It's like the system, all the data we pump out should be able to be spit back to me to tell me. So, and we don't have the luxury of a very large self-governance organization. It's me and another guy. And I have a shadow army of other people in, our central group that work P6 admins and COBRA administrators. And others are cost management people that I tap into to help us do our self-governance. And of course, I'm more that TQM of like, let's push that. We got to push that quality back, which long ago, if I jump back, when it came to the, training our folks By the way, there's an EPA SOP out here. It has all our typical earned value errors. Build something that detects the errors, and we pump it out back to the team. So we should never, ever close a file that has known errors or unknown. I want to say that unknown errors that we cannot explain or have explained before we haven't.
And the SOP is a standard operating procedure.
Yeah. So yeah, it was the EVMS performance analysis. Yeah. So you point to all those basic formulas and those basic tests of do you have P without A? Do you have A without P? Right?
Oh my gosh! Wait, is this segueing right to my soapbox moment? Did I see this going?
Unplanned, but true. I mean,
it's true. It's very true.
We had a PM.
Very elementary equations, and when people tease about EVM being fourth grade math,
well,
yeah,
I'm no rocket scientist. If I figure I can do stuff on my hands, fingers, S, P, A.
And sometimes E.
Yeah, sometimes E. So very, very simple. It's like, we had an old PM that, would tell the people, we got to get back to blocking and tackling 101. So we got to make sure we have as much error-free, the fundamentals of producing a CPR that if you have negative A, explain it down that work package level. And I checked, Amber, we do. We have explanations.
At the work package level?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
On certain projects that are taking a building down. So nonetheless, it's building that back, that every file gets checked before we close it. And then we got more sophisticated because P6 is, we don't have, I've heard of monstrous P6 schedules. Ours are not that complicated, but nonetheless, when you tie into all the coding and logic and all the different requirements, you really need, machine help to do that. And this is where, the team came in with, super P6 admin guys that showed up and that know what to look for. They can speak the language of the programmers pretty well and lay out the requirement of what we need to do.
One of the almost, I was going to use the word striking, but I think I'm going to use the word jaw-dropping comments that you made when we spoke in preparation was you talked about daily.
Yes.
And can I ask more about that, Amber?
Well, and also just to jog memory too, some exposure to the self-governance, as I understand it, at your current company, Joe. It comes from 3 authoritative sources. We talked about P6, Cobra, and then your WBS index and dictionary, but also it is, I want to say, fully custom in many ways. And you have that software developer that really is developers in your shadow army, these people who really understand the data, and you have these systems in place and they're well oiled and they're evolving. You have this 360 EV, you have, tell us a little bit about all of that.
So let me go back even further. So when I learned on that hard case Army contract that WBS dictionaries and Word don't work, that we need databases. And if you can build a database, now you can compare data.
Yeah.
And also from early on, second lieutenant, gold bars, WBS.
Ooh, I like that. So, yes. It's the foundation.
When I brought to this site, I said, we need to build a WBS index. Document it like the old, like they used to be on like 11 by different columns. I said, we need something like that, and we need to tie our codes to it. Mm-hmm. And that thing, and they set some smart people on it, and they built it, and it is really the backbone. I said, I don't know Cobra, I don't know P6 that well. I said, but I know that I think it'd be very difficult to manage our WBS and those 2 tools. So I insisted upon building a WBS index and a WBS dictionary database when we laid this baseline in back in. So with that as foundational, now you have one authoritative source integrating.
Single source of truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. And we did the smart thing. we put it under configuration control.
Yes.
So if you want to change your WBS index, you have, and there's a lot of stuff I made up, a WBS element change form. How does that work out? WECF. So we have a WECF. Anyone wants to change anything?
How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, we just call it WECF.
Okay.
We said
Everybody, yeah.
WECF or something. No, it's just WECF. Yeah. So, yeah, I love those. I love acronyms. So
Everybody does.
So we put that under change control. We prepare a baseline change proposal. Someone opens a new element. You're going to have a WECF attached to it. And it runs through its normal course. And of course, when people realize, like in accounting and other departments, that, hey, that impacts me. Someone smarter than me goes, well, we need a WECF mailbox. So, I mean, kudos to a lot of smart people that I probably go uncredited for making things work.
All good leaders.
It is. So we have the 3 authoritative sources. When we built the PARS audit value responses, we didn't take the CSV files we gave you. We went back to authoritative source. And in fact, we're trying to build an accounting type reporting system as well that would help on that side. But nonetheless, actuals will come in. So when you look at really that fourth accounting authoritative source, which is cost point on the accounting side, that all ties in. So our self-governance is built with that shadow army where we have really a P6 admin.
Joe, one of the other questions that we wanted to ask you was about not just the electronic CAM notebook, but if you want, you can stop there, Amber. But I was wondering about your need or your desire to rebrand to EVM nav. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, it was really kind of just incidental. So EVNav, if I might just mention back, when we went back to self-governance, 3 authoritative sources, it was really everything. We want to make sure we met the requirements from PM30, schedule health metrics, project health metrics. Those are the fundamentals, and that's what's available daily because our P6 admin will run those every morning. So if you need to check your errors as you're going through baseline incorporation status, that's where it's available.
Baseline
those on EVNav. So in typical, leading, herding cats, we had a project controls person, very sharp guy, built this basically like, I don't know if it was Microsoft Publisher front end for his cams, because we just learned that I don't know how anybody could even survive with a paper cam notebook. I mean, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. Just ask my grandkids.
I am old enough to remember paper-based.
Yeah. It's like
a lot of time at the printer. Yeah.
Yeah. And stuffing pages and just getting out of date immediately. So he built this front end that would point to a series of folders that his cams would have access to. Nice. I go, you don't look very smart, but this is damn brilliant. Why can't we, God rest his soul. It's like we need to propagate this and make this our official. So we had, it was really just, what was it called? It was really just the EVMS webpage. Even though it wasn't web-based, it looked like it.
Cool.
Fast forward.
Hyperlink so they could.
Yeah. It would drive you to a series of common folders, shared folders. Yeah. And we would dump COBRA reports. And whatever that was really, static, relatively static for the month. P6 schedules, we didn't bother because those things were just so dynamic. All of the facts, reporting, some tools like bar checklist, things like that available. So when Microsoft Internet Explorer went away and they went to Edge,
changed everything.
It changed everything because what we programmed did not work in Edge because Edge is really an internet browser based. We were not. We were more like, hey, we're Windows Explorer based.
Like intranet.
Yeah.
So we had to build a new, essentially looks like basically an Excel front end, because one of my Shadow Army application developers said, "Hey, this, how do you like this, the look of this?" I go, "Look, it doesn't have to be sophisticated. Look at me. It just needs to work and get people to where it works." So we took the EVMS app, whatever people, which really did, like, it didn't have a name. It's like, well, you know what? I like to navigate. It's like, it just points you, it goes, it's a navigator.
Yeah.
So it's called the EV Nav. So I've got a long list of names that I'm going to leave as legacy. Well, yeah, Joe created that. And then, so they're like, I'm sure I get plenty in the back that says, oh, that's not the smartest thing to do. But nonetheless, we built this front end called EV Nav. It's Excel based, and it really is just a pointer. And it takes you back to those shared folders that CAMs have access to, project controls people to have to. And it's basically a radio button click to a folder or to a file. And it takes people to, those reports. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're smart enough, you can go through the back end and get the same thing. And, there's upsides to doing that. There's downside. The downside is it's an Excel hog. So if you're one of those people that likes to have 12 spreadsheets up, yeah, go ahead and open up EVNav, open up what you want, then close EVNav and give yourself some room till at least we got better tool,
Amber, I'm gonna defer to you for the next question, unless you want to defer to me.
It sounds like you have a question. Of course I have one, but
I'm gonna defer to you then.
well, mine's kind of the summary question. So
Okay.
do you want to ask one and then I'll do the summary question?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like a stump the dummy, like I'm the dummy kind of a question, but you're promoting your self-governance, and I'm wondering how that plays in when you have your oversight or your auditors coming in. How do they interact with the data that you create from your like if you've written you write cars on yourselves, or like how does that work?
Well, that's probably a fault of mine. I'll admit that I'm not necessarily big on the car. I'm more of the forward lean, let's solve the problem before we document.
Right.
I have, I don't think we've necessarily found any deficiency, and the implementation review, I think, might bear that out. That would be a systemic.
Yeah.
The nice thing is we're small enough that, even like Elite today just picked up and it's like, Joe, we got something weird going on. And, do we have any guidance on this? So the fault is, it's like, well, we may not document as much as we should. The nice thing about PARS audit values and those responses and getting the detail, I think once, Amber, you tell me if I'm going too far or too deep. When the review team showed up, and they had our responses. Well, actually, even before they showed up, during the process of starting the review, they could see the verbiage, the text. And as we got into discussions, it's like that. And I show this massive spreadsheet that has not only the sanitized responses, here's the responses, and then all the color text and stuff pasted on the side, plus all the detail that went behind it. Now, because we're going to source data as opposed to spitting back to PARS, for the most part, our XY values match PM30 XY values. Sometimes there might be a little discrepancy. We might be too tight. We might be a little looser. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm getting within hand grenade and horseshoe range of finding out what X and Y values, what the X and Y values.
Okay, all right. So there's a comparison there.
Yeah, so there is. So, Amber's seen that file and the detail behind it. Because when you have two people doing self-governance, and we have two active projects, we're going to have three, at one point we had three. Timeliness is an issue, because I remember those old briefings we had at those annual PM conferences there at, in DC. And it's like, we're 2 months behind. I'm like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but nonetheless, it's like sometimes we go in spurts. And then sometimes, like, the reality is, you know what? maybe every other month or quarters, us doing PARS audit values, especially on a project that's, 80, 90% complete is adequate. But when we get up front, we want to look at that every month. The better part of that is taking the data. And this is where EVNav comes in. Because I had a brainstorm. It's like, why do I not have a self-governance page on my own tool here where I can put links to PARS?
Okay, there you go.
And then have that Teams meeting, because I'm not on site all the time, but to go back and say, like before, as we were prepping for the implementation review, because what's the first question that's, what are they going to ask me? Well, here's what they're going to ask you. Here's all your X and Y values. And these are the areas you're going to ask. And then pretty much bore out that was true. So it's like, can you guys help me address these? Here's what I found. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, that's the problem. And here's this and that. And so I think we were fairly well prepared to answer the questions we got because we had the detail and feeding it back.
Right. Now, I appreciate that, Joe. Amber, I'm going to say, I know that we're nearing our time end, but may I ask you to take a minute to explain XY?
Who's you?
You.
Me, Amber.
Amber's had a long day. I know, but
sure,
we've just been using these terms, and I have some friends that listen that really don't do this every day. And
sure. So, if everyone wants to follow along, we're talking about the metric specifications for the EVMS compliance metrics that are published by the Department of Energy, and they are found. The way I typically find them is in Google, just searching for ECRSOP, which is ECRSOP, which is the Environment Compliance Review SOP, appendices. So ECRSOP appendices. In there, you'll find the metric specifications published publicly, right? And those metric specifications are the equivalent to the DECM, the DoD DECM. And on those specifications, there's a list of all of the metrics. And may have said this before, my background is in theoretical physics, like very specific numbers are not my jam. So I'm somewhere around 185 metrics. So there's around that many. Some say 184, some say 187, some have been deleted, added, whatever. So there's around 185 metrics, and they are very, very comparable and similar to the DECM, but they are what the Department of Energy uses to assess or to indicate areas for assessment for EVMS compliance and maturity. And on those metric specifications, they are pretty formal spec sheet, right? They have sections, I believe they have 14 sections. And in section, every single one is an equation, and it has two components. It has an X, which is what is the definition for what qualifies as a flag. And it typically is an equation that is something to the order of, for all incomplete work packages that have greater than 132 days duration. That is the X, and you can put that in an algorithmic formula. And then the Y is for the population. So the population of that would be all incomplete work packages. And then you have your Y is your population, and your X is your number of flags. And then there's even an area that has a bit of a formula, so you can actually see the code that would qualify to trip that. And partially what Joe's done in his group is they've replicated all of those formulas on their end. So they're verifying that they're receiving the same X and Y values that the Department of Energy is seeing, which is tremendous in what they've done in their own internal systems from the ground up. Yeah.
Tremendous. Yeah, very tremendous. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Barbara. I didn't realize that you
Well, I mean, we just don't know who's listening anymore.
Yeah.
Joe, when Amber and I did the trailer back in December, we said, well, chances are good if you're listening, we know you. But now we really recognize there's a whole medley of people listening. So we want to be sure to answer to our audience. So
yeah, very, very much the population of that specific test, as well as what's flagged and errors. And the nice thing is it can differ. I think we're able to differentiate what's flagged versus, well, that would be the other, not the PARS audit value test, the DIQs.
Yeah,
what's flagged versus what's errored. So
that's a whole other area. But I'm gonna take us. I think I really, really very much enjoy and respect our time together, Joe. And maybe there'll be time for future sessions with you. But I'm going to close this out. And I have one thought, a little bit of ambling, kind of take us through a little concept here and get your feedback and some closing thoughts. So where I want to take us is looking at the forward-leaning self-governance. We really wanted to talk about how your self-governance program right now is very forward-leaning. And there's a couple of areas that I heard in what you said that key into that. One, you said that the certification was earned and that leadership recognized that, right? How much that went. And then you also said that success breeds success. And
Yes.
what we're learning is that once you're at a very mature level of EVMS, it requires less to even maintain it. And what I think I've seen and heard from you in your organization and your self-governance is that success has bred success, and there's leadership buy-in and culture such that, and this is huge, okay, everyone, please pause for a minute. This is huge. In your organization, you are not only using EVMS where you need to and must and required, but it is being used across the entire enterprise. Is that true?
Yes, it is true.
Yeah.
We don't use it just on capital projects because, once you build a system, it's the way to manage your work. And you kind of have to remember, we're in this for the money. There is a profit and a fee to be earned.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is typically a component of, you're going to have a subjective award fee. And typically there's earned value type metrics in there. So the worse you perform, less you make, right? And that doesn't make bosses happy.
So,
So,
podcast that, Amber. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. That EVM makes you money, yeah, because now you know where you are, and then take the corrective action to ensure that you're profitable. So boom, mic drop.
So that's one way, and sometimes that's a lesson I learned because everything I was like, just that little box for fee up there in the header. Whatever. That just comes. Then you have you get exposed to the other side of the world, which is, like I was just working on, company forecasts of revenue and margin. It's like, how much are we actually bringing in? So there is not necessarily a direct tie, but there is a tie. When it comes to forward leaning, that I want to be cautious about, we want to fix our problems and be timely with the feedback. And that's something I have to work on and make sure the more we drive, hey, here's your results after a month, and it's, already 1 month past, and you're working on the next month. How can we be timely and that forward leading, but also documenting the problems as we've uncovered that, as opposed to, everyone's type A, a lot of type A's, you go fix that problem, go fix it. I mean, personal life and work, right? You want to just and keep pressing on and not necessarily that document that lessons learned. I looked at it when I built that system description. Every time I got a question more than once, I wrote it down and said, do I have something in the system description that I can point to? Because my memory is horrible. So if I wrote it down.
That's why people write things down.
Exactly, Barbara. Write it down because I don't have to remember it. I just need to remember where it is.
Yeah. Which Post-it did I put it on? No.
Yeah, exactly. Like a big yellow monster, right? And then, just get back to that critical thinking and trying to teach our folks. That's part of that. When people come to me, they have a problem. It's like, well, we want to do this with budget. Someone said we should do that. And I'm like, think about what you're doing here. Get them to think about it. What is the repercussion and what is the harm if you do that from an earned value perspective, and get them to think. So that is I have supportive leadership, and right now I've been on the opposite spectrum where they just don't even want to talk to me, not because I'm a bad guy or anything, but it's like, just, they got mud on their boots and that's all they care about. But then it's like, guys, you got a client here that wants to know when you're going to get done and how much it's going to cost them. No one can tell me. So
well, I'm very happy you found supportive leadership, because what you do and how you do it is something that should be very much supported. So thank you, Joe. Yeah,
Thank you. What an honor.
it's been wonderful. I think with that, we're going to close out. So
Okay.
that's all. Thank you very much,
All
Joe.
from
Bye, Amber. Goodbye, Barbara.
Let's
Let's Talk
talk
EVM.
EVM.